ba Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabalaba Girivardhari Gopi Janabalaba Girivardhari Gopi Janabalaba Girivardhari Gopi Janabalaba Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Natira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Natira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabalaba Girivardhari Gopi Janabalaba Girivardhari Gopi Janabalaba Girivardhari Gopi Janabalaba Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Natira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Natira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare calling out Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna. Good to see you. Okay.
Thank you, Garuda Prabhu, for giving us the nectar of the holy name, which brings auspiciousness to all occasions. Garuda Prabhu is a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and he is also the ISKCON scholar who is fulfilling Prabhupada's prediction and dream that one day there would be a chair at the Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley, which would be taken by a Vaishnav devotee, ISKCON devotee, and that has come to fruition.
It's in process.
It's in the process.
It's in process.
But it's only separated by a little more time.
Time and a little more money.
Right.
Yeah.
So
just a little bit more, a few dollars here or there. Yeah.
He was kind enough to come and give a beautiful seminar yesterday on the subject of the changes in Srila Prabhupada's books, but more importantly, how we can come together as a society to find common ground and be peaceful together in our not only acceptance but understanding of which ones may be necessary, which ones may not be. We all have different opinions, but that was aired very beautifully yesterday. And today the subject is.
Let's see, we have to.
Oh, by the way, Garuda and Garuda Das.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the LA temple,
Yeah.
not so long ago,
Yeah.
taken by Rameshwar Prabhu.
Yes. And he sent it to me, so I've
We have to
present it to you for your viewing pleasure. Okay. Now there'll be two things. The second part is open topic. Bring your most perplexing questions. However, I've got a topic which has to do with Prabhupada saying on the one hand, there's no love in this material world, on the one hand, and yet love is everywhere. How do we understand both statements? So that's in the second half.
That's the second half.
Yeah.
Heart surgery on the devotees. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Touching the
like
hearts
that.
on the devotees.
I'm a heart surgeon of sorts. Yeah. Devotional heart.
I wanted to add that he's the author of 3 different books, right? 3 or 4.
Well,
You're the author of 3 or 4 different books.
4 if you count edited.
Right,
4
and you have 2 books that are overdue.
3.
One for
Yeah. Did you have
Harvard,
to say
for instance?
overdue? Did you have to say that?
Well,
They're coming.
it's my relationship with the library on books, so it
Forthcoming.
came naturally.
Okay. Forthcoming books with Oxford, Yale, and Columbia. Yeah.
So maybe that'll give us a closer hearing, because Garuda Prabhu has been teaching Bhagavad Gita as a profession. He's been teaching it for over 40 years.
That's right.
So without any further ado, I want to welcome all the people in the temple and all the people online. And Garuda Prabhu also is available for questions. We'll talk about how to contact him later at the end.
Sounds good. Thank you, Nrsinganandaji.
Thank you, Garudaji.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming. So this topic, in my how long has it been? 45 years in the movement, I've noticed that devotees can certainly collect and group, but how much are they really connecting intimately with one another? So this was my concern for today's topic. I would say, there are, Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu gives all kinds of lists of what Prabhupada calls symptoms. We have to be careful with that word because symptom is usually signs of a disease. Lexicographically, that's what it means. But really, he gives lists of signs of advancement, ecstasy, devotional progress. Some signs are having to do with really bhakti psychology even. Very elaborate text, and moving all the way up to the rasas that one can engage in with Krishna. But he says of all of the rules, of all of the most important practices, 5 are the most important. And I think probably most of you know what those 5 are. There is the sadhu sangha, the association of devotees. There is the dwelling in a place like Mathura or Vrindavan. There is the Bhagavata Seva, hearing the Bhagavata. There is the worshiping of the Tulsi Devi or the deity. That's interchanged. It's interesting. They're interchangeable. And then finally, the chanting of the holy names. So those 5 are the most essential practices. And if we practice those 5 and increase little bit by little bit. So if you have a house that's a little bit in a mess, and you want to really make it more like Mathura or Vrindavan, then cleanliness is very good. Clean it up. Put pictures of Vrindavan in your home. Purify it. Put wonderful, books around the home and so on. Transcendentalize your home. Make it a place like Mathura or Vrindavan. Bhagavata Seva. Read from the Bhagavata. Just like a honeybee goes into the flowers for nectar. Be a honeybee into the Bhagavata. Go for the nectar. And by the way, I recommend that whatever text you pick up, the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavata, Chaitanya Charitamrita, read those passages that especially thrill you. Not every passage is as thrilling right now as they might be later. But develop a kind of passion for certain passages and read those over and over and over, incessantly, and you'll go so deep. There was one devotee who asked me, she said, Garuda, I'm a voracious reader. I read everything. Any devotee who puts out any book, I read it, I gobble it up. I'm just concerned, is that all right? I'm through 40, 50 books now, in addition to Prabhupada's books. Is that bad? I said, it's not necessarily bad, but don't neglect depth. Breadth, you seem to be acquiring more than most devotees. But depth, you may be missing. Find the 5 or 6 or 10 or 12 verses in the Bhagavad Gita that really speak to you, that resound deeply in your heart. And I suggest sitting somewhere and repeat that verse in English 21 times. A little bit, just slightly out loud. No one else around. See what happens. I do that with one verse. I do it with many verses, I must confess. But what about, one who sees me everywhere and sees all things in me, to such a person I am never lost, nor is such a person ever lost to me. I don't know how you feel about that verse, but that I just feel Krishna embracing me when I recite that verse. So I can recite that anywhere, and suddenly I can feel Krishna's embrace. Find those verses through which you can feel Krishna embracing you. Focus on those verses. Go deep. So breadth reading is okay, but make sure you stick with the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavata Purana, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's a reason why Prabhupada gave us those texts, is because they form the Prasthana Trayi for the movement. What is the Prasthana Trayi? That's a phrase I'm adopting from Vedanta. Prasthana means foundational, Trayi means three. So the three foundational texts for establishing a Vedantic school is the principal Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and the Vedanta Sutra. One must write commentaries on each one to establish a school of thought. Well, in ISKCON, Prabhupada gave us the Prasthana Trayi of Bhakti, the three essential texts of Bhakti. And that is the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Purana, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So go deep into those. You may want to read beyond them and so on, but don't neglect your depth relationship with even key places. Because I know for all of you, you have certain verses you really love. Cultivate that relationship, go deep. Amazing things happen. Now, that was a digression from my original point toward which I was moving, which is among the 5 practices, the essential practices that Rupa Goswami outlines in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the connection with the Vaishnava, the connection with the Bhakta, the devotee, is the most important. Because through that connection, all things are possible. So I want to talk about what does that mean to connect with a devotee? Does that mean to come to Rath Yatra and just hang out with a few thousand devotees? Well, that's certainly part of it. But what does it mean to develop deeper connections with devotees? So I thought what I would do today is present some choice, sort of cherry-picked places in the Shastras that could nourish this topic, okay? So I'll first start with some Upanishads, just 2 passages, I believe, from the Upanishads, and then we'll move into the Bhagavad Gita, and then move into the Bhagavata, I think, maybe. I'm not sure what I did here. I think I was in trance at the time, so I'm not really sure what I arranged for here. And then the Chaitanya Charitamrita. What I want to do is leave you with a formula today, a formula for deeper connecting with devotees' hearts. Okay? That's what I want to do. And you let me know if I'm successful or not. Okay? If I'm not successful, your money back. It's a money back guarantee. Do they pay to get in here? I don't know if they paid. Well, if you didn't pay, I'll still. Well, okay. Well, just forget about that. I'm not a good businessman. Okay. Net 30 probably. Yeah. So this Upanishad, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, really says something very interesting here. And I've even truncated it. I've shortened it, and you can see the ellipses here, which means I've skipped a bunch of areas between the upper part and the third part. But let's read it. Truly, it is not due to the love of a husband that a husband becomes dear, but due to the love of the divine that a husband becomes dear. Truly, it is not due to the love of a wife that a wife becomes dear, but due to the love of divine, of the divine, that a wife becomes dear. And then the concluding passage, I'm skipping down to that. Truly, it is not due to the love of all things that all things become dear, but due to the love of the divine that all things become dear. Now, what this means, it has shades of meaning here. On the one hand, it's not saying that, only love Krishna and maybe you'll love other things or other people and whatnot. It's not saying that. It's saying that the very fact that you can love a wife or a husband or a child or all things, the very fact that you can love all these things is because of the divine. The divine is the source of all love. And there is a connection between all kinds of love and the divine. and vice versa. There's a connection of the divine to all kinds of love. So this is saying, a lot of deep things, but we're going to come back to this in a little bit. These are my translations, so I take full responsibility for any mess ups here. But here, this is a beautiful other passage from the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. As a person fully embraced by one dearly beloved no longer knows what is without or within, so a person fully embraced by the intelligent self no longer knows what is without or within. For one who truly has a desire to reach this state, whose desire is of the self, whose nature is without desire, there is no longer any sorrow within. Now, at the risk of getting a little professorial here, I want to ask all of you, in this, the first part is quite straightforward, right? I mean, there's a kind of metaphor here, right? A simile in particular. So, two lovers embracing don't know really where their boundaries are. In fact, their boundaries are merged. So similarly, a person fully embraced by the intelligent self no longer knows what is without or within. And we know from the advanced stages of bhakti, internal and external cease to exist. One could say the guru is on the outside and there's the Chaitya guru on the inside. Eventually, those merge. One does not discern a difference anymore. The deity is without, the deity is within. At a certain point, there is no difference, there's no distinction. Prabhupada says the deity worship is for the Kanishta. It is for those who have not developed the eyes to see the divine. So it's a beginning process, but it's also the end process. So this is very interesting sort of dynamic within bhakti, is that the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning. So whatever stage you think you're at, you don't know fully where you're at because it's all mixed up. It's all very connected, very intimately connected with the goal. The means is the goal. The goal is the means. But what about this second part here? What do you think about this? Desire is spoken of in three ways. For one who truly has a desire to reach this state, whose desire is of the self, whose nature is without desire, there is no longer any sorrow within. By the way, it doesn't say that there won't be sorrow without. Note that, right? There can be sorrow without, like the passing away of a dear one. The loss of what did Ramananda Roy say to Mahaprabhu, who asked Ramananda Roy, so what is the most painful thing in the world? He said, the loss of a devotee. The loss of the devotee. Well, what does that mean? Sometimes it appears to be meaning the physical departure, the departure from this world. It appears to mean that. But what about losing a devotee while you're still here? The loss of a devotee while you're still here. But what about the three kinds of desire? Any observations anyone wants to make about these three uses of desire? There's a sort of positive, negative, and neutral use, right? What's that? Well, that's why they call the Gita Gita Upanishad. That's right. Because the Gita it draws so much from Upanishadic literature. But yes, here, desire, first mentioned, is a positive thing. So we are to desire to reach this state. That's a positive use of desire. Whose desire is of the self. So that's sort of a neutral state, you might say. It's difficult to describe this, but there's some kind of desire that belongs to the self proper. That gets developed later in higher bhakti stages. But then, whose nature is without desire. So there's the negative state. So this could appear to be contradictory, but it's just there are these different relationships with desire. Now, when we're talking about Buddhism, they want to eradicate desire entirely, right? The Four Noble Truths the Buddha comes up with, right? The first one is dukkha, which means suffering. I remember teaching at Duke University, and in the beginning of the semester, I said, "Welcome to Dukkha University." No one really knew what I meant, but I did. And I made sure that I followed through on that, too, with my course, my teaching. Nisringanandaji. Yeah.
So whose desire for the self, that would be the actual soul.
That's right. The spiritual desire, yes.
Whose nature, the spiritual soul, is without desire, material.
For external things, right, exactly. Good.
But then there's no longer any sorrow.
There's no sorrow within. But as I said, that doesn't mean there's no sorrow without. Right? So on the outside, so whose nature is without desire, in the external world perhaps, but that doesn't mean that there is no sorrow without, even in that state.
It doesn't mean there's no desire within, because that desire is to please Krishna.
Yes. But in Buddhism, you eradicate desire entirely. So you have the first of the Four Noble Truths is dukkha. The second is ichcha, desire. Suffering arises from a desire. So the Buddhists would not relate to this. And the third noble truth is to eradicate or cease desiring to get rid of suffering. So that's the whole in Buddhism, there's no such thing as desire. That is not the bhakta. We'll go Vaikuntha Priya and then we'll go here. Yeah.
I see that actually very positive because the self without desire, without any ulterior motivation, purity, I think is the, super positive.
And I think that's a paradox. So it is without desire, which is negative,
Right.
but yet it's extraordinarily positive. Good point. Yeah.
My comment is on the previous verse.
Hold close. Yeah.
My comment is on the previous verse.
Yes.
What will be the difference if we say love of the divine, or instead of that, love for the divine? That verse, it says love of the divine.
Yes, love of the divine.
And what will be the difference if it is instead of the divine, if it is for the divine?
Yeah. See,
Husband is dear for love of the divine.
Yeah. Now, when you say love for the divine, that's very clear. But love of the divine is not clear and is conveniently ambiguous. So it's in the genitive case in Sanskrit. So that means of the divine. So love of the divine can mean love for the divine or love coming from the divine. So you could collapse the ablative and dative cases in the genitive case to be, if you want to be technical about it. But so love of the divine can go both ways. It can mean love for the divine or love from the divine. And I believe that it really is, that ambiguity is convenient. Yeah, very good. Good. Any other comments or observations? Yeah, back there.
I have a question, Prabhuji.
Yes.
The last sentence says there is no longer any sorrow within, and then you say it, but there is a sorrow without.
Yes.
Can you kindly explain?
Okay. The best example to invoke for this is Arjuna. He certainly dealt with the sorrowful situation in which he found himself within, but doesn't mean he didn't experience sorrow without, having to kill and engage in a battle where he had to hurt loved ones. So this is a sorrowful situation on the outside. In fact, one of the powerful teachings of the Gita is a tacit teaching, which says there will never be ethical resolution to issues in this world. If you're looking for ethical perfection, it will never happen. If you're trying not to hurt any living entity like the Jains try, it's impossible. It doesn't mean you don't try. It doesn't mean you don't move in the direction of trying not to hurt all creatures. But there's no ethical perfection and no ethical resolution. By its very nature, there will always be ethical conflicts in this world. And that Arjuna, was confronted with. I mean, he had an irresolvable ethical conflict. On the one hand, he's a kshatriya. He was, his nature is to protect innocent people. And on the other hand, you're not, according to the Dharma Shastras, you're not supposed to kill your relatives, friends, and gurus. So it was irresolvable on an external level, on an outside level. So there will be sorrow in this world, always. No way to eradicate it. But
I'm sorry to hear that.
you were hopeful, huh? I destroyed all hopes for that, huh, Nisargananda? Yeah. Well, you're a pretty happy guy, so I don't think you need to worry about it. But yeah, well, yeah. But the thing is this: Arjuna, he had to go within. He had to go within, right? To find the place of no sorrow, to be able to perform externally in the world. So this is powerful. We will get to that. Oh, did I miss that, someone? Oh.
This is actually very powerful because having that power, like you said, for the internal liberation, no matter what happens on the inside, you still have an alternative to go in, and despite that, be at peace and, resolve your sorrow.
Yes.
I mean, it is powerful. I can actually feel that.
Yeah. It's a very powerful message of the Gita, that no matter what happens on the outside, there's a place on the inside we can all go. And that's why Krishna says to Arjuna, be a yogi, go within. So now we'll go to the Bhagavad Gita. I'm not sure how many people I've ever presented this to here, but when I translated the Bhagavad Gita to support Prabhupada's, what I like to call Prabhupada's, he calls it Bhagavad Gita as it is. I like to call it Bhagavad Gita fast track. Fast track to bhakti. And fast track, you skip a lot of things. And, people, you just have to read Amazon.com reviews of Prabhupada's Gita. People just get like, wow, well, how can Prabhupada translate yoga as devotional service? How's that possible? That's fast track. Okay? But when you translate everything very, literally and very particularly, it adds up to the same thing. Devotional service is yoga, and yoga is devotional service. They just don't know it yet. So people get insecure with the fast track. So they need to go to the slow track. That's me. Yeah. Okay, good. So anyway, if you'll be patient with my slow track. But one of the things that I did in my slow track production of the Bhagavad Gita published by HarperCollins, when translating it, I discovered some subtle things. And I thought I would just share this with you right now. The last verse that Krishna speaks, of all 575 verses, he presents a rhetorical question which acts as an instruction. Have you heard this whole teaching with thought focused upon the single highest point? Eka agra, with the thought focused on the single highest point. So I asked myself, this is the last verse that Krishna speaks. What is that single highest point to which he is pointing? In other words, he's giving us a way of reading the Bhagavad Gita. He's giving us a hermeneutic, an approach to appreciating everything in the Gita. What is that? He says here, understand the whole teaching by everything tethered to a single highest point. The question then is, what is that single highest point? Okay. Well, Krishna explains that it's the Sarva Guhyatamam, the greatest secret of all. I didn't fully appreciate this until I had to translate the Gita. It's there in Prabhupada's Gita, but there's such a fullness of bhakti in the Gita that even this can get a little lost unless you know to look for it and pick it up. So You notice throughout the Gita, beginning in chapter 4, there's a discussion of an ultimate secret. So it's the greatest secret of all is where he's taking us. But he gradually brings us that way. Remember, this is not the fast track, it's the slow track. Okay? So the slow track is he kind of gradually introduces this ultimate secret beginning in chapter 4, verse 3. In chapter 9, he talks about this greatest secret. So, again, what is this greatest secret? Even the king of secrets in the following verse. He talks about the silence of secrets. He talks about the supreme secret in chapter 11. And he talks about the greatest secret in chapter 15. So there's a subtle thread running through the Gita. What is this greatest secret? We have to go to the 18th chapter to find out. By the way, I might just digress here a little bit to let all of you know that there are people in the Western world, and very good scholars, I might add, who think that chapter 11 is the climactic message of the Gita. Because this is where Krishna shows his divine might and power and glory and fearsome traits. And there was a scholar at Oxford University by the name of R.C. Zaehner, Richard Charles Zaehner, who produced a Bhagavad Gita with Oxford University Press in the mid-20th century. And it's actually quite a good translation. He draws from Ramanuja's commentary. So he's really bringing out the bhakti in many ways, but he makes the awful mistake of saying that the 11th chapter is the climactic passage of the whole text. Now, we've gotten to Sringananda here, and he's a producer of films and so on. Do you put the climactic message right in the middle of your film? I hope you don't. If you do, I want you to leave. And be honest with me. Do you do that or not? Okay, you can't be honest with me.
The middle of the film is fun and games.
Fun and games, okay. But
then the second act is all is lost.
okay.
And then you go to the resolution.
Okay. But the climactic usually is built up toward the end, not smack in the middle of the text. I was actually invited on a blog once, and I don't usually accept invitations to that, but this is a fellow who is running a Bhagavad Gita blog, and he claims to be very knowledgeable about the Bhagavad Gita. Well, you can imagine, there was a part of me that wanted to, take him aside and chew him up. But I restrained myself, and he invited me to be a guest responder on the blog. And I said, okay, I'll do this for a week, and that's it. Because he discovered my translation of the Bhagavad Gita and was all excited about it and said, get it and read it, and then we'll have Dr. Schweig come on the blog. So I did this for a week. I introduced myself. I said, hey, this is wonderful that this is being done here and so much is being shared. There were about 150 people in this discussion. So I said, ask me anything about the Gita. Ask me anything. So people started asking really good questions, and it was going really quite well until the host of the blog said, Graham, as far as I'm concerned, the 11th chapter is the climactic message of the Gita. The 12th chapter winds it up, and as far as I'm concerned, you can throw out the last 6 chapters. I gasped with terror. Throw out the last 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Yes, exactly. He missed it entirely. He missed the greatest secret of all. And it's interesting. I think some people are not supposed to know what the greatest secret of all is. After all, it is called the greatest secret of all. You can read it and not actually absorb it. This is the most amazing thing. I have actually done this with students. I've experimented with students. What is the greatest secret of all in the Bhagavad Gita? Find it. Tell me what it is. Most of them don't get it. Exactly. So my point, yeah, my Ishwar, yeah.
Talking about is very common, and I've seen there's actually several editions of Bhagavad Gita is put out by prominent so-called gurus that end with chapter 11 or chapter 12. And I think part of the reason why they do that is because when you go past into those later chapters, you get into things like the divine and the demonic natures, the divisions of fates, these kind of subjects, and there's a big push nowadays of don't be judgmental, and in that part of the Gita, Krishna is very clearly saying, no, use your discretion. There are people in the mode of goodness, people in the passion, people in the ignorance, and they just want to push that all out the door.
Yeah.
And that's why that's going on.
Well, yeah, I like what you're saying, Maheshwarji, because yes, the last 6 chapters, well, certainly not the last chapter is a chapter that summarizes a recapitulation of the essential teachings that went before it and taking all of them further. It's an amazing chapter. I have spent months and months just meditating on this last chapter, as you'll see in a minute. But up to that last chapter, Maheshwarji is I think absolutely right. It's a refining of the way we see things, the kshetra and the kshetragya, these things. This is a refining, the buddhi, the faculty of discernment, to understand how the trigunyas are at work. So, finally, when we get to the 18th chapter, this is what I found out from the 18th chapter. Basically, now these are my divisions, okay? I take full responsibility for this. And again, if you don't like what you see here, there's no money exchanged here, so that's fine. But anyway, so part 1, there are 4 parts to this 18th chapter, which are extraordinary. By the way, notice numerically what's happening in this chapter. Numerically, we've got 50 verses for the first part. It now narrows down, okay? We're going up the mountain, so to speak. We've got 13 verses for the second part. And for the third part, we have only 3 verses. And then for the fourth part, we've got the concluding words. We have the great secret, the greater secret, the greatest secret of all. Are these, Garuda Dasa's made-up terms? No. They come from the Gita. Okay? But again, this is something that has to be pulled out. So I found that the great secret is the first 50 verses. The greater secret, the next 13, the greatest secret of all, as if climbing a mountain. That single highest point is part 3, the greatest secret of all. So you see it's beginning with the positive, the comparative, and not just the superlative. This is a superlative. It's not just the greatest secret, it's the greatest secret of all greatest secrets. What in the world could that greatest secret of all secrets be? Did you have to make an announcement?
No, this is the perfect place that we would say, go to an advertisement, because, what is that greatest secret of all?
Then you keep them hanging on, and then, right, good. Okay.
So we're going to hang on there. The persons who own a Toyota Camry 6HZT183, not that you would remember your license plate, and a Nissan Versa 6SXH238, which is white. Are they in this room? Because they need to be moved immediately.
Yeah, I think mine's the Nissan. I'll be right back.
Really?
No, it's not mine.
Anybody here? Okay.
No, even if they were here, they're not going to go, because they need to find out what the greatest secret of all is. So that was useless. That was completely useless to Sringananda. I'm surprised you would even entertain such a possibility.
Well, it's the pause that, gives us more drama.
Okay, good. A little more build-up, right?
Yeah.
A little more drama. Good. Okay, I like that. It's good. Sringananda is definitely a producer.
That's a secret of dramatic, drama.
Yeah. We have enough secrets here. We don't need your secrets. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, good.
You're not going to get my secret.
Okay, good. Therefore, it's secret. The funny thing about the Gita is that it's fully disclosed, unlike the Sringananda's secrets, which he keeps to himself very selfishly. But Krishna unselfishly discloses fully his secrets. And do people pick it up? It's fairly rare. Again, I've tested these things on my students. So the great secret. The great secret has to do with acting according to one's nature. The great secret has to do with the outer world. The outer world, and in that outer world, one is pursuing one's dharma, one's swadharma. Okay? That's the great secret. The greater secret has to do with the realm of transcendence and the supreme self, Brahman and the Purusha. That's the inner world. That's the inner world. Part 3, the greatest secret of all, has to do with a divine love and a divine yearning. And part 4, all the 3 primary voices of the Gita wind up. First Krishna, then Arjuna, and then Sanjaya. Clearly, this is the concluding section. So, in 1863, the very last verse of the greater secret, we know that these are called the great secret and the greater secret. Thus, for you, this knowledge, which is a greater secret than the previous secret, is made known by me. Having fully grasped this with nothing overlooked, then act as you so choose. This is an extraordinary verse. I mean, I could write volumes just on this one verse. But don't be scared. I'm just going to give you 1 minute on this verse. Note here how Krishna says, once you've understood these secrets, the great secret and the greater secret, then you have free will. Then you can choose. The whole Western polemics and argumentation about is there fate and deterministic worldview, or is it free will and choice? It's either or in the West. In the Gita, it is both. The more ignorant you are, the more dark, and the more you are absorbed in darkness, the less free will you have. Just take a look at someone who's just totally drunk. What kind of free will do they have? Not very much at all. But someone who has clear vision, who has developed exceptional clarity of all things, as the Gita cultivates, that is a person. Someone who's cultivated the great secret and the greater secret, who actually can perceive and experience Brahman and Purusha, or Paramatman, that person has free will. And then everything in between are gradations of free will and fate. See how that works? Okay? So the Gita solves a big problem here. Yeah, Sri Anand, you.
How would that then relate to the controversy of the origin of the jiva? Because if the jiva was in the Brahman only in the beginning, would it have the ability to actually have grasped the greater secret?
Yeah. I'm going to solve this fall of the jiva in 1 second. But you may not understand what I'm saying. Ontologically, the jiva comes from the Brahman. Existentially, the jiva comes from the lila. So you just take that home and chew on that for a while, okay? In other words, both are compatible theories, but but both sides think the other side is wrong, while both sides are correct in many ways. I don't know where that's coming from, but I'm taking it as divine confirmation.
It's my phone.
Well, I don't care where it comes from. It could even work through you, Sri Ananda. I don't doubt it. Okay. Yeah. Oh, not necessarily. No. Ontology has to do with the way things are, has to do with being. Irreducible forms of being. It's metaphysics. Existentially has to do with our relationships, our relationships within being and with being. I know this is a little heady, and for Saturday afternoon, this is not fair to all of you. I understand that. But tough it out.
Especially
Tough
when it's the morning.
Yeah, there's no within or without. I mean, it's just, yeah, okay. Tatasta Shakti. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's right. Existentially. So, see, well, anyway, I don't want to get into this too much because, I mean, I don't want to drop my greatest secret of all here. Right. And I know you're on the edge of your seat to dwell on this. Okay. So I'm just showing you here, but this is a very interesting discussion. We could do that a little bit later, okay, because I didn't plan it all for here. But the greater secret and the secret. Look at this. So this is where I get the great secret, the greater secret, and the greatest secret of all. Well, the greatest secret of all is the next verse. It's fully disclosed. In fact, the word greatest secret of all, guyatamam, is used as the very first compound phrase. So, would you all like to know what the greatest secret of all is? Okay, then I might just go there then. Okay. There it is. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Okay, you don't read Sanskrit, so I'll spell it out for you. Okay. Now let me explain something to you about this verse. Someone who's pondered the 700 verses of the Gita over and over and over for 3.5 years to come up with his publication. There is not a single verse in the Gita that is as emphatic and as dramatic and as extraordinary in these ways as this verse. So even on a literary level, it's extraordinary as compared with all other verses in the Gita. And for example, in Sanskrit, we don't have boldface, we don't have uppercase letters, we don't have double strike underlined, we don't have smiley faces. In any case, we don't have any of that, okay? We don't have any of that. If you're going to say it, you got to say it. You can't just put little smiley faces or underline something or put it all in caps as if you're proclaiming it loudly. No. If you're going to say it, you got to express it. This is Krishna expressing it, using every possible way to do that in Sanskrit. I'll show you one piece at a time. I've color-coded. I know this is difficult lighting in here. But anyway, the greatest secret of all comes first. Sarva Guyatamam. Okay, so that's the first extraordinary announcement. It's not just the superlative, it's a super superlative. It's the greatest secret of all greatest secrets. If that's not enough, once more, please hear. Bhuya Shrinu. Imperative case. Please hear. You've got to hear this. Yes, the heavens are opening up now. Maybe you can't hear. I can hear it. Okay, just try. Oh, the heavens don't want you to know the great. Okay. It needs a couple of seconds to, the battery ran out, right? Yeah, okay, it's coming back on. Okay. See, it's a little hard to get to the greatest secret, folks. You got to really want it, you got to earn it, you got to work for it, okay? Just like I did. I didn't just show up, okay? It didn't just show up, okay? Oh no, because then I'll get too distracted. I've got to keep thinking of this, because we're in the middle of showing you how emphatic Krishna gets in this one verse.
This is how good movies are made. They just keep you hanging.
Okay, good.
And then all is lost. The projector, the electricity fails.
Everything, yeah.
Earthquake happens.
Right.
What's that greatest secret? What's that greatest secret?
Exactly. Well, this is good. I planned all of this, obviously.
Perfect.
Yeah. You know, when you publish a book, you know, you sign a contract. So HarperCollins asked me, so when do you think you can, you know, submit the final book? I said, oh my God, I've been reading the Bhagavad Gita for 40 years. Sure, a year, you know, I said with a big fat ego. I said, oh, you know, I know the Gita. Oh yeah, really, Garuda, okay. And I said, just to be safe, let's say a year and a half, because things come up, right? It took me 3.5 years. And, you know, after a year and a half, my editor at Harper started calling me. And whenever I saw his name, you know, it says HarperCollins, right? On the ID, what is it called? Caller ID, right? I would just say, you know, don't answer it, you know. Because I know why he was calling, you know, he wants a manuscript. You know, the deadline is passed. And I kept doing this for like a few months, ignoring his call. But you know, sometimes when you're on the phone and you look who's calling and the caller ID doesn't work? Well, that's what happened one day. I answered it, and there was Eric Brandt calling me. Graham, I'm so glad I finally got a hold of you. Yeah, I've been actually meaning to call you. And he said, well, where's our manuscript? I said, oh, okay, that's what you're calling about. Well, I said, Eric, many of the verses are singing. They're really singing, but there are some verses that are just not singing to me yet. It was kind of a dead silence. He said, I'll call you back in a month. And he didn't understand the singing thing, you know? Anyway, I did this for a good year and a half. The singing thing. He just thought I was going crazy, and he didn't believe he was ever going to get a manuscript. Finally, he said, he practically broke down into tears after. Are we having a problem there still? Okay, it's a. There you go. Yeah. Look, Sri-Anand, you want to sit up here and take over, or am I going to finish this, or did you just finish it?
I'm always behind the camera, never in front of the camera.
Great. That's good. Very good. Okay, so apparently Krishna wants you to know what the greatest secret of all is, okay? You like this drama? I'm really beginning to, well, I'm not sure I'm enjoying, but anyway. But here, so the second emphatic phrase here, once more please hear, in the imperative case. If that were not enough, look at the third thing that Krishna says. It is my supreme message. Do you think he's being emphatic here? I think, very emphatic. The greatest secret of all. Once more, please hear, it is my supreme message. Extraordinarily emphatic. More than any other verse in the whole Gita. And if that weren't enough, look at what he does next. He puts quotation marks around his greatest secret of all. It's within, the greatest secret of all is right in between these quotation marks. And here it is. Ishtosi medridam iti. This is a necessary precondition for bhakti. There is no bhakti without Bhagavat Prasada. Right? Is that a familiar sounding phrase? Yeah, I think you've heard that. And I think you've been chanting it for decades. Bhagavat Prasada, right? Okay? You are so much loved by me. Thereupon I shall continue declaring this message for you, which I have set forth into motion. This is the ekagra. You are so much loved by me. Every single verse spoken by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita has to be understood as a loving offering to Arjuna. Yeyata mam prapadyante tams tataiva bhajam yaham. Bhajam, I love you, I worship you, I love you, Krishna says. That is a necessary precondition for bhakti. Without that, we have no bhakti. We have no jnana, we have no karma. So this is the greatest secret of all. Yeah?
Where does the exclamation and the quotation come from in the Sanskrit?
The exclamation mark comes from me, because you don't have exclamation marks in Sanskrit. But because of all that leads up to it, Garuda Das, your translator, Mrigendra, be nice, supplies the exclamation mark for you. Okay? But everything else is there. Yes, iti is the quotes. Yeah. He frames it with the iti. Yeah. Then, of course, you get the verses that follow that are so famous, but that 1864 is very neglected. I'm trying to bring it back into the motion, into the discussion here. Be mindful of me with love offered to me, sacrificing for me, acted of reverence for me. Truly you shall come to me. This I promise you, for you are dearly loved by me. Beautiful. It's so powerful. Now, here's the problem. When translating the words, you see, in English, okay, in Sanskrit, we have about 30 or 40 words for love. Why? Because, a language reflects what a culture focuses on. In Eskimo language, they have 30 words for the word white. Because that's all they got up there. They probably have the word blue, and probably about 20 words for blue. The idea is we have 30 or so words for love in Sanskrit. And in English, we just don't have any words but one word. It only works. I tested this out on my wife. I came home one day and I said, honey, I'm very fond of you. She looked at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? That didn't work. This is my field work. I came home the next day. I said, I have a lot of affection for you. A lot of it. She said, you should really leave. She didn't like this. I'm saying really nice things to her. I'm indicating love. I tried 5 other things. Finally, I said, honey, I love you. She said, oh, you're back. We load up the word love. It's just the only word that works. So how do you translate from a language that has 30 words for love that are nuanced into a language that is impoverished for those nuances. You have to use the word love, and you couple it with the nuance. So priya means dearly loved. That's how that works. Oh, the deities. Another thing I'd like to point out to you in this verse is truly you shall come to me. I have counted, for example, let me ask you this. If I've invited Nisringananda over for lunch once, it's a nice averagey invitation. If I again ask him to come to lunch, that's pretty, obviously I'm very interested. If I invite him over for a third time, that means I'm really, really wanting him to come over for lunch. Krishna speaks about us coming to him throughout the Gita at least 22 times. 22 times. This is extraordinary. And remember, he speaks only 575 verses of the 700 verses. Krishna is desiring us. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Yeah, even you, Nisringananda.
No, thank you so much. I got goosebumps when you pointed out that it's Krishna who loves us.
Exactly. That's necessary precondition for bhakti.
Yeah.
That is why that response to that love is the Maha Mantra. That's what we're doing. When we chant the Maha Mantra, we're saying in so many words, we feel your love. Now, we are calling out to you so we can offer our love to you.
What is the purpose of Krishna saying truly? What does that indicate? Truly, why doesn't he just say, you shall come to me? But he prefaces it that with a little qualifier.
Yes, that's right. Satyam. Satyam means truth. Satya means truth, and here it's working adverbially. Now, I asked everyone yesterday how many people knew what an adverb was, and sadly, I only got about 4 people. So I won't use grammatical language, but basically, in this chapter, he's winding up his message. This is like another emphatic. Truly, you shall come to me. No, not just that you shall come to me. Truly, you shall. I've been saying this throughout the whole Gita. Now, this is not the last time. The next verse has it as well. Completely relinquishing all forms of dharma, come to me. Come to me. It's almost like he's trying to wake us up. Come to me. Would you finally hear me? Come to me as your only shelter. I shall grant you freedom from all misfortune. Do not despair. It's power. It's so loving. The Gita, Krishna is so loving to Arjuna.
So that misfortune would relate to falling into Maya. I'll grant you freedom.
Oh, misfortune is papa, which is, I believe, by Prabhupada, translated as sin. And sin is something that we in the West can understand because most of us come from Judeo-Christian traditions. And Prabhupada, of course, was equipped with that language in Scottish church colleges, But papa is not exactly sin, which is a very Christian term. It's all right. It's fine. Translation. The problem is that papa is a little wider. So if I come over there, Nisringananda, and I hit you, which I have had, admittedly, a few urges during this session. But if I come over there and hit you, that's a sin. But if part of the ceiling lights fall on you, that's also papa. See, but that's not sin, that's misfortune. So misfortune is wider and contains sin, but is not limited to sin. So that's the word papa, not used here. So again, I'm being watched by academics when I translate this Gita. I have to be very, very careful. I'm taken to task on one translation that they feel is off. So I have to be able to fight for any translation I use here. Behind you, two people behind you is Mrigendra.
Not necessarily as far as that translation, but you mentioned the papa could also include, let's say, something falls on his head. But is the implication that it's not just an accident, but it's based on his sinful past activities that he's getting karmic reaction?
In Sringananda's case, definitely. Yeah. In your case, absolutely. But others, innocent Dasrat's, it would just be an unfortunate thing. In the case of Henry, also again, just an accidental thing. No, but seriously, yes, we have everything makes sense. There is a purpose for everything, even those things that appear to be accidental. Yeah. Anuttamaji once asked me, he said, Garuda, how do you construe? He said, I understand if, I did something wrong and then something happens to me, but how do you construe, say, a whole ship of people, the ship sinks and carries 600 people. Does that mean that their karmas are all like timed? Like you go on that ship, I mean, how does that work? Well, I think, we have to be careful not to be simplistic in our understanding of karma. Karma basically says there is some greater purpose and arrangement here. There can be a greater world process in which we are all functioning, even if just the light hits you, Mrigendra. You're assuming, Anuttama, in asking that question, is assuming that that's an isolated thing. But it could be connected to a light falling on someone's head in Hong Kong. This can be similar to the butterfly effect, right? Right? In other words, something so small is actually something quite big, but you don't know it. So karma is a vastly complex thing, and we have to be careful not to simplify it and be simplistic by it. And we have to be careful not to use it against one another. Like, if Sringananda comes in with a cast on his arm, you as a godbrother, you're not going to go up to him and say, yeah, obviously, Sringananda, your karma's catching up to you, isn't it? I mean, that's not what we do. We don't go into a hospital as a doctor and say, the patient who's dying of cancer, you know why you've got cancer, right? You know why, right? Okay? It's your karma. Okay? You deserve this. So I'm not even going to help you. Go to the next room. Hey, you know why you're sick? That's not what we do as doctors of the soul. We have compassion, first of all. We're compassionate. Prabhupada asks that we have enough compassion to fill an ocean. Kripa Sindhu? I'm happy for a puddle of the stuff. Kripa Sindhu. Oh, this is hyperbole. Prabhupada does it. First of all, this is not from Prabhupada. He gave it to us, but it's from the Padma Purana. So the Padma Purana, yeah, it's filled with hyperbole, isn't it? I don't think so. I think that the Vaishnava heart, which connects to Krishna, can easily be an ocean of compassion. But if we're disconnected, then it might be just a puddle, and it might not, and the puddle might be really muddy. So we need to purify that puddle, connect more and more with Krishna in the hearts of devotees and the hearts of others. So this idea of action and reaction is far more complex. And the 11th chapter, the value of the 11th chapter is, it's very complex. Yeah. So we got behind you, Mrigendra, and then we'll go over here, and then we'll return. We'll go back.
I was working on some books with Yamaraj, working on Sadhaputa's books, and we came to the word karma.
Yamaraj, the deity of death? What?
Yeah, he's at the one. He's at BTG.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I just needed a clarification.
Anyway, so we're looking up some of these words like karma, and some of them normally you'd italicize them, but now words like karma and yoga, they're English words. So you don't italicize them. do you?
Right.
So it sounds like what you're saying is the English word karma is very simplistic to this the Sanskrit definition of a word like karma. Like we've adopted these words into English with a far more simplistic investment than the original words have in their original context.
Yeah, there is a great danger of bringing Sanskrit terms into English and having them become terribly dummied down.
Well, it's natural and expected, but
Yeah.
just to be aware.
But that's why, Prabhupada's purports are important. That's why commentary is very important. Once something's translated into English, you want to elaborate on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it has become anglicized. Karma, mantra, they pronounce it mantra, which is terrible. And those people in England, they also say mantra. That's terrible. Our devotees say mantra. Yeah. Yeah, I go over there and I try to get them to say mantra, but they say mantra. It's terrible. Don't get me started on the English. Yeah. But yeah, a student of mine, gave me a button as a gift. My karma ran over my dogma. So I mean, it's part of Western culture. The word karma and other words.
It's a standard English word.
Yeah. Over here.
I was just referencing Nishringananda's comment regarding karma and bringing so many people together, as in the Titanic, for example.
Mhm.
And I like to think that sometimes that bad karma is actually good karma, of course, because it's clearing away their bad karma.
Right. Very
As
good.
in the Holocaust, where Srila Prabhupada says in the Srimad Bhagavatam that those persons who suffer intensely at the time of death have all of their karma cleared away and they're liberated.
Yeah. I appreciate your comment because, we have a worldview that is intrinsically optimistic. I don't think anyone here is afraid of going to hell for eternity. Let me see your hands. Anyone afraid of going to hell for eternity? Is that even a possibility? Oh, you? Okay. I'll talk to you later. We'll make other. Sringananda can get you out of that. He's the producer or something. But, we have, an intrinsically optimistic metaphysics. For example, have you noticed that there is something called Vishuddha Sattva in the gunas, right? Pure Sattva. But have you noticed that there's no such thing as Vishuddha Tamas? No. Until I met my father-in-law. Then that was a different issue. Anyway, but that's a different issue. No, but joking aside, but there really is no pure darkness. Only pure sattva, goodness. Only pure spirit, clarity. Yeah.
In reference to the boat sinking, I just recently read a quote from Srila Prabhupada where it says, "This is how Krishna does wholesale killing." These are the exact words of Srila Prabhupada.
Say again.
Prabhupada said, when things of that nature happened, when she was referencing to the boat and the Holocaust and everything, Prabhupada said this is Krishna doing wholesale killing.
Wholesale. Yeah,
Wholesale.
Okay.
Wholesale
And I've translated that as a greater world process that is going on. That's impossible for us to comprehend. A greater world process.
Right, yeah. But I think there's a lot of power in acknowledging that, like, purification, like she said, that this could be a reaction to something that previously was done.
Right.
I mean, when I understood that concept, it was extremely liberating. At least when I was suffering in this existence, I had some intellectual capacity or knowledge to make me ease the problem, understanding that somehow it's really mine. It just didn't happen by accident, or I'm just going to blame somebody else, which most people like to do. Blame. Instead of own it, even if I don't recall the details of what I've done before.
Yes.
But it's such a sigh of relief to know it's really mine.
Yeah, no, these are
So
very
there's
good.
a lot of responsibility there, and it's responsibility is liberating. Blame is not.
Blame, yeah. There's a difference between blame and understanding that there's ultimately something, there's a positive outcome ultimately.
And it's very positive,
Right.
very empowering.
The little pictures can be painful, but the big picture is a loving picture.
Exactly,
Right.
and from one life to the other one and everything. The one thing I want to ask you, use misfortune. Personally, when I think of misfortune, I know it's a big umbrella for you where you think everything falls under, but misfortune seems like, I don't know, I like the word maybe impious, if you don't want to use like sinful, because a lot of people have negative connotations. Have you ever considered that word? Because I've seen you...
The word, which word?
Impious.
Oh, impious. So, say freedom from all unpiety.
Well, you're the linguist.
Impious things.
Impiety.
Lack of piety. You can see it gets a little clumsy, but it's the idea. It's the kind of thing that is good to bring up in a commentary. These different nuanced meanings. That's the advantage of a commentary. Did you have you're good?
Well, I'll just add the one thing. The only thing is when you have those mass type of killings, like, well, or even dying, like you had on the, on boat crashes, plane crashes, many people at the last moment, they're told or it's revealed to them to pull out. So it isn't like everyone who went on there absolutely was supposed to be on there and then nobody else got out of it. Many people do get out of it. They're warned beforehand.
I'm gonna take a little break here. We had someone leave a cell phone. Anybody missing their cell phone?
Yeah, I think that's mine.
It's someone's misfortune. Or is it their impiety, or is it their karma? I'm not sure, but we'll find out who that is, who gets it. Okay, so we'll continue. I just wanted to mention Prabhupada does use the term unfortunate, for describing people.
That's right. Yeah, so that word's also used. But these are difficult things. I mean, I don't recommend anyone to ever be a translator. It's a most agonizing, absolutely, frustrating thing to try to accomplish, is translating these great and beautiful texts into English. Very difficult.
I want to encourage for us to just keep your questions for now, because we have a lot of area to cover. So if you could continue onward, and then at 12:30 for certain, if you're willing, there's people who can stay behind and ask more questions. I mean, we can leave some questions open. Let's move on a little bit.
I actually have quite a bit of material here, but we don't have to get through all of it. But yeah. Okay, but I enjoy hearing the different remarks. Okay, so let's see. So we began this talk with how do we get closer to one another as devotees? Well, chapter 10, verse 9 is the formula for this. And so we now understand that Krishna has a loving desire for all of us, and he wants us to come closer to him. But here is how Krishna explains how we can become closer to one another. With their thought on me, right? Everyone knows this verse. Machitta magata prana bodhayanta parasparam, right? With their thought on me, with their life breath offered to me, enlightening one another and conversing about me continuously, they are satiated and they feel rapturous love indeed. I analyze this in 3 parts, okay? The inner teaching of the verse. 1, what we must first offer to the divine. So in preparation for connecting more deeply with one another, Krishna says, place your thoughts on the divine, on me, he says, on me. And offer even your life breath to the divine. So this is a preliminary step. Then, number 2, what we then offer to one another and to ourselves about the divine. A, uninterrupted interactions that enlighten, bodhayanta, right? Bodhayanta parasparam. And then unending exchange of words in conversation. Katyantas cha mam nityam. Endless katha. So first we go inside. Then we come out and we exchange enlightening words with one another, and we find that we can't stop talking about these things. Katyantascha mam nityam. Then, what fulfillment we finally experience through one another from the divine. Through one another from the divine. Satiation on the one hand, and rapturous love on the other. Tushyanticha ramanticha. So this is what I call the formula for greater closeness among devotees. Share realizations. Share things that are very dear to your own practice and realization in Krishna Bhakti. But all the same, we have to go deeper in our own sadhana, in our own practice, and deepen our realizations as much as possible first with Krishna, then we can share with one another valuable things. Yeah.
All of these deep realizations, these are all in your book?
In my book? Oh. Yeah, now, in terms of the great secret, greater secret, and greatest secret of all, yes. All of that is outlined. This is for here. This is unprinted. Where do you find this right here? It's right here for now. I don't know where it's going to go. Yeah. I thought I'd just bring it to all of you. Yeah. Because that's today's topic. So I really am focusing on this verse. But I like to see this verse within the frame of Krishna's desire and love for us. So that first part right here, that part of having our thoughts on Krishna, is to realize that he desires us. He longs for us. And there's a paradox there, because he owns everything. He controls everything, as Prabhupada likes to say. The only thing he doesn't control is the way we feel, is the way we are in our hearts. It's the only thing he cannot control. Not even a God can control our hearts. If they could, then it wouldn't be love, would it? It wouldn't be love. I always like to invoke this little story as a college professor. What's going on here? Oh, okay, here. Okay. Oh, this is not of me. Oh, I thought they wanted a picture. Well, you realize you're taking a picture of a screen right now? I thought it was of me. No, actually, I really don't want a picture of it. Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, yes, okay, fine, that's fine. Okay, as a university professor, between classes, you're walking, on the sidewalks are crowded, right? And so there were two young ladies, students, walking in front of me, and they were talking with each other, and I admit I was eavesdropping, okay? And I heard one say, "Does Mike still love you?" And the other one said back quickly, "He better, or I'll kill him." Now, try to understand what this did to me. I was very alarmed. Secondly, I was worried for Mike. Thirdly, what a position he was in. If he professed his love for her, obviously it was because he was afraid of being killed. So that's not love at all. That's enslavement. If he was honest with the girl, then he would be killed. So it was a very difficult position. So for years, actually, I've been looking for Mike on campus. I think it's significant that I haven't been able to find him. I think he's dead. Okay, now, the point is this. You can't force someone to love. Not even a God can force someone to love. This is the one thing we have to offer one another and the divine. That's it. Oh yeah, we can offer favors, after this seminar, I'm going to ask, running out of funds, so I'm going to ask Sriyananda for $10. So that's fine. Now, if he's any kind of loving friend, after all these years I've known him, he'll give it to me. If it's not, then it's a test. But joking aside, really what we're looking for in one another is affection, is love. There is nothing more powerful than companionship. You know, we talk about higher ashrams, lower ashrams. The Grihastha ashrams got its bad rap for years. But you know what? What we're talking about here goes beyond ashram. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a sannyasi. I don't care if you're a brahmachari. I don't care who you are, in what ashram you are in. There is no replacement for companionship. There must be sangha, close, intimate exchange with another bhakta. If you're lacking that, you are lacking the greatest order of Rupa Goswami. The greatest opportunity to advance in Krishna bhakti is through the deep connection and loving connection with another bhakta. And as Ramananda Roy said, the most painful thing is the loss of a bhakta, the loss of that loving connection with a devotee. So, I hope this helps. Is this interesting? A little interesting? Okay, yeah, good. Now, okay, now, what should we? Okay, now we have a choice here, folks. We can either go into what I presented in Chennai. I was flown to Chennai, India, to present a paper on what, essentially, I didn't quote Prabhupada saying this, but Prabhupada says, on the one hand, there's no love in this world. And then on the other hand, elsewhere, he says there's love everywhere. How do you construe that? Is that a contradiction? Is it a paradox? How does that work? So, now as a scholar, I have to frame it with textual sources. So I showed how in the Bhagavata Purana, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the word prema, a word reserved for the very highest and loftiest attainable state in bhakti, the word prema is used throughout the Bhagavata to refer not only to the love between divine personages or between humans and divine personages, but also the love between a human and a human and an animal, and between an animal, and between a human and a cloud. Now, that's pretty ubiquitous. So, on the one hand, in the Bhagavata, this is how the word is used. But on the other hand, our Goswamin theologians reserve that as the highest attainable state. Are we talking about two different premas? Are we talking about the same prema, but in kind of a certain arrangement? So that's one presentation I was going to make here. But I could continue with the present arrangement and show in the Rasa-lila how there is the most powerful case for Vaishnava Sangha among the Vraja Gopikas.
Just to interject, you did advertise that you were going to reconcile Prabhupada's statement that there is no love in the material world in this seminar. So I don't want to accuse you of false advertising. So I would recommend at least you answer that question before you move on to the realm of the Bhagavat Rasa-lila.
Okay, look, I just found out that they didn't pay to come into the seminar, okay? Okay, I didn't know that. I thought there was a head charge. Now to find out that there's not. So I feel I have a little, okay, but I'll work with you on that. Okay, that's fine. The Rasa-lila is known by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami as the Lila Sara, the essence of all Leelas, or by Vishwanatha Chakravartin as the Sarva Lila Chudamani, the crown jewel of all Leelas. Now, this has been an interesting thing for me to sort of observe, this my relationship with the Rasa-lila. My first relationship with the Rasa-lila was reading Krishna book about 45 years ago when I knew Dasarath in the DC temple. Always glad to see you. I haven't seen you in about 45 years. Yeah. In any case, Prabhupada, in his presentation in Krishna book, is he cautions us very greatly about a misreading of the Rasa-lila, and that he's very strong in his language. He says that fools take this to be an ordinary, exchange between boys and girls, and take it as an adulterous thing, and so on and so forth. So, throughout my years in the movement, I was informed that you just don't read the Rasa-lila. I even heard a leading devotee tell me, who is also a scholar, I guess that gives it away, you just avoid it. You just don't read it. That's a little like telling a Christian that they shouldn't read the portion of the New Testament that focuses on the passion, death, and resurrection. Which is you're not if you don't know that, you're not a Christian. If we don't know the Rasa-lila, we are not bhaktas. I would like to say that. But of course, that's why Prabhupada presented it early on in the Krishna book. When we are gazing at the divine forms of Radha and Krishna, I insist, and one of the things I come to the conclusion of in my book, Dance of Divine Love, is that we are actually gazing at the Ras Mandala at the same time. Because as we are informed by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswamin and the other Goswamins, that when you are looking at the Vraja Gopikas, you are looking at specific embodiments of different emotions of Radha. So they're all the Vraja Gopikas are Radha. And Krishna attends each one of those emotions. Now, maybe you're thinking, well, that's why he's God. I mean, who can attend each of the emotions of a woman, right? That's one interpretation. But this is, the Ras Mandala is the dance that Prabhupada says we are all supposed to join. He says it's in about 6 or 7 places throughout the books. So, I think, now, I ended up writing a whole 450-page book on the Rasa-lila. I've mentioned this before in other contexts here. I never intended to write on the Rasa-lila for a doctoral dissertation at Harvard University. I was always going to write a comparative thesis. My PhD from Harvard is in comparative religion. I was always going to write on that. And for years, that's what everyone there thought I was going to write on. One day, my doctoral mentor confronts me and says, I know on the Christian side of things, there's plenty of treatment. But on the Vaishnava side, I'm not convinced. So he then confronts me with this mind-blowing question. He says, what is the highest vision for the Chaitanya school? There I am, just he and I in the office. What is the highest vision of the Chaitanya school? So I'm like, he said, take your time. So I'm like rapidly, going through the Gita. Now I'm going through the chapters of the Bhagavatam, and I'm finally going into the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I'm remembering those leelas where Mahaprabhu is contemplating the Rasa-lila, and I'm thinking, and I'm realizing, and I come back to the Bhagavat's Rasa-lila chapters, and I come back and say it would have to be the Rasa-lila, the Bhagavata's Rasa-lila. He said, oh, well, is there scholarly treatment on that? I said, well, everyone knows it, everyone talks about it, I'm sure there is. He said, show me. I scour the Harvard Libraries, largest university library system in the world. I come back with nothing, which scared me because I was scared he was going to ask me then to write about it. And that is in fact what happened. My worst fear came true. He said, you have nothing for me? I said, well, Diana actually writes a little something about it, which was incorrect. And that's only like a paragraph and a half. And people mention it, spot mention here, but no one treats it. He said, there's your dissertation. I said, but my dissertation is supposed to be comparative. And that's very important to me. My degree actually says comparative religion. the reason why comparative was so important to me is because Prabhupada said in a letter to Giriraj, not then Swami, if you take the Chaitanya school or something like that, the Chaitanya school, and compare it to all other theological theses and show that this is topmost, this will be a great accomplishment. So this comparative thing was sort of important to me. So I asked my professor, well, how am I getting a degree in comparative religion if I'm just focusing on the Rasa-lila? This was my way of trying to get out of it. Because how was I going to go back to my God brothers and God sisters? You know. So Garuda, what are you writing on for your dissertation? Oh, just the Rasa-lila. I mean, how was I going to even say that to anybody? You know, it's like I imagine all the responses like, oh, you are writing on the Rasa-lila, are you? Yeah. Shall I call you, Sita Manjari, or how shall I call? What's your new name? You know, yeah. And have you been dancing with the Vrajagopikas? Is that how you are qualified? And so on. Anyway, I mean, I just imagined all the nightmare questions I would be asked, right? And believe me, after I wrote the book, I was asked some of these questions, okay? And I mean in public forums, like in Alachua, like with 400 people at a Sunday feast. So my fears were not unfounded. In any case, my professor said, you're raising knowledge and awareness of the Rasa-lila and the Chaitanya school's vision of it, their transcendental vision of it, so it can come into dialogue with the other great traditions and their great gifts. Well, little did I know that I would then become a kind of gatekeeper to the Rasa-lila in the academic world. So whenever anyone writes about the Rasa-lila in the academic world and wants to get it published, guess who they have to get it reviewed by? Moi. That's French. It's not Sanskrit. And in fact, there was someone who submitted an article on the Rasa-lila that was a terrible piece of scholarship, and I won't say anything more about it. And I had to critique it, and I ended up recommending rejection, and it never got published. And it said horrific things about the Rasa-lila. I said, but you know what? I don't even mind negative angles or different points of view as long as it's sound academically. But if it's horrific, that means it's getting away from scholarship, because nothing has to be horrific. So I rejected it on that basis, and I showed all the weak points, and they never published it. It's also happened another time. So again, I didn't expect this, but now I hope I get to enter the dance sometime. I don't just want to be the gatekeeper. But for right now, I happen to be the gatekeeper. So I couldn't have understood that. All I'm trying to do here, and I'm going to flip through all this in the interest of time, all this interesting stuff that I have, this is all in my book, by the way, so I'm not going to apologize for this rapid, run through of slides, by the way, this is one thing I correct in the book. In the book, I say that these are 8 attributes of love, and I found a 9th afterwards. So this book will be coming out with Oxford University Press in a year, I will add the 9th. Okay, that's fine. Anyway, this is, again, not so necessary to go into now. Am I hearing things, or do you hear it? Oh, I see. Okay, fine. Okay. In old age, you don't know if you're hearing things or if you're hearing things. Okay, but okay, I'm going to have to skip over a lot of this again in the interest of time. What I'm trying to do is to show all of you that, this is really interesting stuff that you're not going to be able to look at for long. And this, oh my gosh, what a terrible projector. That's supposed to be the Ras Mandala. boy, Premanand, look at the screen and look at this. It's just such a difference. Anyway, this is an extraordinarily beautiful painting of the Ras Mandala that I commissioned a devotee painter, Rajasthani painter, to do, and I had her painted according to my specs. I gave her the every object in it is placed where it should be. I even gave her the circle of the gopis, and because I wanted it to be as close to the text as possible. The only thing that's not accurate in this, can anyone tell me what's not accurate in this? That's like very obviously not in the Rasa Panchadhyayi, the 5 chapters. There's something in here that's very obviously there, but not there in. No, moon's there with the 8. Oh, well, it doesn't describe, so that doesn't count. That's too subtle. Yeah. I mean, oh, what's that? Oh, no, okay, no, because they're not mentioned in the Rasa Panchadhyayi. Yeah, that's the way it's described. He stands between each a pair of gopis. Pair. Yes, and that's later in the passage, and both are true at the same time. Jai Gaurnitai.
Just tell us, for God's sake, just tell us.
Yeah, for God's sake, for your sake, pal.
For the sake of time.
Yeah, for the sake of time. Radharani. What's that? The Kadamba tree? Kadamba tree? The Kadamba tree is not mentioned in the 5th chapter of the Rasa Panchadhyayi. It's not mentioned. That's why it's not there. But what is there, that isn't there, but is there at the same time, is Radha. There's no mention that Radha dances in the middle of the Ras Mandala with Krishna. But in the Chaitanya tradition, it's unthinkable to not have Radha with Krishna. Now, so that's the only place where I have been unfaithful to the passage, but faithful to the esoteric vision of the Ras Mandala. What happens is, because remember, each of the gopikas are the embodiments of each one of Radha's emotions. So Radha's already there. This is almost like a tautology, a redundancy, right? But yet, Mruganja, don't get so close. Yeah. Everything's legal with him. I don't know why. Everything's legal. It's just. Anyway, so what I explain in my book is that the Rasa Panchadhyayi and the 5 chapters of the Rasa-lila are themselves the gateway to esoteric literature while it's available exoterically. It's the one, it's the window into esoteric visions. And that Radha represents that window into the esoteric literature, while Krishna and the Vrajagopikas are exoteric. Anyway, this gets a little esoteric, so we don't have time to explain all of this now. But suffice to say, here's the important thing. Rasotsava sampravritta gopi mandala manditaha. The gopis, this mandala is formed first by each of the gopis interlocking their arms. Notice that it's only when the bhaktas come together does Krishna appear to each one of us uniquely and individually. If bhaktas are divided and are broken, if the community of bhaktas is broken and not linking arms, then Krishna will not appear to us individually and personally. That's one of my interpretations of this great passage. it's significant that the Vrajagopikas, who all wear different dresses here, it's hard to see, right? But they all look different. They're all individual. But they link arms first, and then Krishna appears personally and uniquely to each one of them.
That's also the principle of Guru. You connect to Srila Prabhupada, Krishna comes to you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, linking up with Guru, and then Krishna comes. Yes. So in a way, but this comes first, because this is eternal. This is what's going on all the time. Guru is extending that principle.
You were saying that Radharani, you put her in the middle and she's not described being there.
Yes.
Is it possible, like there's other pastimes where, for example, when Krishna is on a swing and Radharani, she said, you Vishaka, go on a swing and play with Krishna. She's encouraging her maidservants. So if I were to take a snapshot of that, I would see Vishaka dancing with Krishna and we think, well, Radharani is not there, but she's always there. Could she be just on a side witnessing and the snapshot is only focused on the gopis with Krishna?
Okay. So you see, you're at a very transcendental level. You see, you're seeing esoterically. That's the esoteric vision. You see. But the exoteric vision is that Krishna is in the middle and he probably uses the word expands. I as a scholar, I have to be more specific. He duplicates himself multiple times to each one of the gopis. It's a bulky phrase, but that's the way it has to be said. There are people who read expand and think that Krishna's blowing up like a balloon. Okay? But we have our ISKCON jargon, and we know what we're talking about, but outsiders don't necessarily know. Okay? So that's my job, is to learn how to articulate these things for outsiders. So yes, there are all kinds of esoteric leelas where Krishna and the gopis are interactive. But the exoteric leela that allows entrance into those esoteric leelas is the Rasa-lila, is the Ras Mandala. So she's not really there. And as we all know, her name is not even mentioned. She's there functioning. She's the gopi with whom Krishna runs off in the second chapter, the second act of the Rasa-lila. She's there when she's talking to the black bee, right? The Brahmara Gita, the black bee. She's there, but she's not, she remains mysterious. In esoteric literature, she's fully announced and named and so on. So this interesting relationship between the exoteric literature and the esoteric literature is discussed in the book. So the Rasa-lila, I point out, is the entrance into Radha Krishna esoteric leelas. So in a way, putting her there, I'm justified because that's sort of now you're beginning your entrance into the esoteric literature. That's the porthole.
So are you saying that if you put Radha Krishna in the middle, that people could not understand the Rasa-lila? Because what are they asking about all the people around? And Krishna is there many times.
No, they would understand it, but all of you as bhaktas would appreciate my putting Radha in the middle. That's for you. I did this for you guys. Yeah, I took risk for you guys. Okay, that's how much I love you guys. You see, but in keeping with the seminar topic, my whole point is that the Vrajagopikas link arms in a complete circle, a full community. This is why I stressed with the whole theme of editing Prabhupada's books. I said, if the community comes together on this, it's all worth it. If it becomes broken and divided and divisive and angry, Krishna will disappear. That's the whole point. So today's talk is an effort to show the value of the bhaktas linking arms first into a community, community. Then Krishna comes to us individually and personally. It's a powerful message.
By hearing your description of this painting reminds me the stories of the Prachetas. So the Prachetas, they were performing severe austerities underneath the water. And finally, Lord Narayan appeared before them. See, the first thing Lord Narayan told them is because all of you are so united and friendly. That's why I'm coming here to see you.
Uh-huh. Very good. Very good. Appreciate that.
Very nice.
Yeah. Thank you. Community of? You're saying pure devotees? Pure. As opposed to like non-pure devotees? All manner of devotee, link arms. That's why Prabhupada gave a society, the social dimension of bhakti, is to see if we could all link arms, so to speak. I mean, don't worry. I'm not suggesting we all get around and do form a Vedic hootenanny. I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying that this is symbolic, powerfully symbolic of how we need to link to one another with mind and heart.
Garuda, isn't it interesting also that Prabhupada's last instruction to us was that your love to me will be proven by how well you work together, how you cooperate.
There you go.
Again, coming together. And even this thing that you touched upon, the book seminar that you did yesterday, if the education was then, we brought all the devotees together and everything was explained about what was done, so many people would have not been agitated or concerned or upset, whatever, if there were communication and everybody was included.
Yes.
You see?
And there's an important function. I think yesterday, I spoke about chapter 18 in the Gita, verses 20 through 22, that it there explains how individually we have a certain angle. And that's a tamasa in the sense that it's dark because we only see what we see and we don't see anything else around us. So we're kind of in the dark. When we start dialoguing with one another, we see that, oh, you have another view, I have a view, and we start collecting views. So that brings it up to a Rajasa level. Now things are a little hazy. They're not dark, but they're hazy, but I can see other views. When we all then bring these together and see what the transcendental foundation of all this is, the overall picture, then it becomes raised to a sattvika level. And that's community. And very good. And that is the linking of arms.
In Rasa-lila, there's that purport that Srila Prabhupada writes that if one is not able to find, or can't remember exactly the words, but I had pointed this verse out to you a few days ago, that if the devotee is not able to find that kind of sangha in this, then he should just take the sangha of the spiritual master, of the pure devotee. Actually, Prabhupada says pure devotee.
Right.
He doesn't say, he gives basically an alternative or an exit and out if you can't get along with those. So how does that fit into this scheme of things?
What I would emphasize is that it's about cultivating a relationship with another devotee. That's where the link begins. So it's not as though here at the Rath Yatra you've got to speak to each one of the 1,000 devotees that are here today. No, it begins with just one devotee with whom you connect deeply, and that's why I presented chapter 10, verse 9 as a formula. Okay? So it's about moving between Krishna and your heart and another devotee, back and forth, back and forth. Those are the linkings.
So it's not like you're proposing the idea that all ISKCON devotees have to get together and be harmonious with one another in order for Krishna to actually be attracted to their hearts. I mean, it could be interpreted from what you're saying that everything depends on cooperation within ISKCON, which then eliminates the possibility of people in the Gaudiya Math or other maths also achieving the same goal.
Right.
So I just want you to kind of
clarify that. Yeah. Well, Vaikuntha Priya mentioned Prabhupada's last desire, okay? and that was for ISKCON. Okay, that's fine. But on a more sort of micro level, micro social level, it begins with each of us connecting with another devotee. You know, whether it's your guru, whether it's your Vardhana Pradarshika guru, or whomever it happens to be, with whomever, it's about connecting to the devotee. And in that deeper connecting, you will also then continue connecting more. And it moves out from your heart's connection with divinity.
So then, just to be really clear about this, so then the devotees' love for Ritvik devotees that have taken the shelter of Narayan Maharaj, or Tripurari Maharaj, or Paramadvaita Swami's Vedic World Vaishnava Association, or whatever it is, that's where what you're saying is our hearts have to begin to be inclusive of loving in all respect of all those Vaishnavas.
Oh, well, I mean, in the Gita, we're cultivating love for all living beings, for that matter. I mean, you can take this to a macro level. On a world social level, there are institutions that can be respected as being different and similar, different, or apart from what you do. That's fine. We're not here to judge one another. Yeah, that was the ceiling coming down. Yeah. But the idea is the connection with the devotee is so important. It doesn't mean just attending festivals. Attending festivals, of course, that's one of the recommendations of Rupa Goswami, to attend festivals for your bhakti, to expand your devotion. But most importantly is the sangha, is the connection with the devotee. Where that connection is, where that connection's found, is not something you can force on someone or on yourself. It happens naturally. We didn't wake up one day and say, today I find my guru. Today is the day for my guru. Today I'm going to do this. It doesn't work that way. It's a relationship. There has to be, it's mysterious how it comes together. It's divinely ordained. And so are the relationships between bhaktas. Where that comes from, what society, it may be not in ISKCON, it may be in another Vaishnava society. In comparison to eternity, really, one little difference that you may have with another shouldn't get in the way of connecting.
So can I, in this last 14 minutes, can I ask you to move into the reconciling this idea where Prabhupada has stated that there's no love in the material world, and how we see that in the context of what you've been presenting for the last 2 hours?
Yeah, okay, well that was going to be my whole other presentation. What I end up doing is reconciling how the word prema is used throughout the Bhagavata, and how it's reserved as a most exalted attainment in bhakti. And the way I understand it, it's a little bit like oil and water. They never mix, but they can both be next to each other. So there is, within all living beings, the potential. Okay. There is, within every living being, the dormant nature to love purely. And that pure love is never tainted itself, just like you can't put water in oil. But you can have plenty of water hanging around, so you kind of ignore the oil. So at times, that prema will come out in human relationships, even with animals and so on. And I have pictures of animals, being very sweet with one another on this group of slides. that love is ubiquitous, but it doesn't mean it's cultivated to the highest. The bhaktas cultivate the heart to the very highest level possible. And that's the prema that the Goswamis talk about. But it doesn't negate the fact that love is ubiquitous, that there is love coming, and that all living beings are seeking that love. We have a metaphysics of love. That's what we're all about. Radha and Krishna, it all starts with them and goes from there. That's the single highest point. You know, we chant the Maha Mantra. I explained, you know, I completed the book for Tamal Krishna Goswami. Many of you know that, right? I completed that book. I even gave it the title. I even edited his chapters, and I contributed 2 chapters. In the last chapter, I explained why we have a very special grace on us as Krishna Bhaktas in the Chaitanya tradition. Not to knock anyone else's. Prabhupada says there's bhakti in all true religion. But if bhakti is in all true religion, I figure, well, I mean, I might as well go to the mosque. Why do I stay here? I'm sure there's a mosque in L.A. Morganj, is there a mosque in L.A.? Okay, fine. Give me the address right now. Okay. Very good. Okay, well, I'm going to go over there instead of Rath Yatra. Any of you have a problem with that? Well, of course you do, because you want me to get something that's very special about us. What is special? When we chant the Maha Mantra, what do we chant before each round? Right, the Panchatattva Maha Mantra, right? So Mahaprabhu is the only one to attain that stage beyond prema called Mahabhava, which is which is what Radha is made of. So really, when we talk about Mahabhava, we are only talking about 2 people. We're talking about Radha and we're talking about Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is the embodiment of the love shared between Radha and Krishna. This we know. So we, in effect, worship love itself, beyond Radha and Krishna. We see the 2 figures, but it's actually what's between them that we worship. Not Krishna, not Radha. If we only worship Krishna, then we're worshiping Vishnu. If we're only worshiping Radha, then we're worshiping Durga. Right? Together, they cannot be worshipped separately. Radha and Krishna are worshipped together. And between them is this prema that we worship. And that the embodiment of that love is Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu is likened, so none of us can attain Mahabhava. That's only for Radha and only for Mahaprabhu. But guess what we get to do? When we chant the Maha Mantra, the Panchatattva Maha Mantra, we are in effect. Thank you. Amazing things happen around here, really. It's amazing. But you know what's really amazing is that while we will never attain Mahabhava, and no one ever will, we get to bathe in some of the off spray of it from the great geyser of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is, Lila after Lila, is exploding with prema all over the place, right? Prema Vesha is a phrase used hundreds of times in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He entered into prema. And he's just, you know, in these, the problem with Mahaprabhu is he couldn't contain it. He couldn't contain it. It was volcanic. It was explosive, like a geyser is. We get to stand under the waters from that geyser. That is our special position. We will never be the geyser. That's Mahaprabhu. But we get to be soothed by the cooling and mineral-filled waters of the geyser. There is a great Vaishnava who compared Mahaprabhu to a volcano. And he called Mahaprabhu the golden volcano. I have a problem, respectfully, with the metaphor. Because when a volcano erupts, generally people run away from the volcano. Whereas with a geyser, people run toward it. So Mahaprabhu is an the earth cannot withhold or contain these mineral waters that explode almost convulsively, and we as Krishna Bhaktas, because of the Panchatattva Mahamantra, we are now getting some of the spray off of the geyser of Mahabhava. That is what's very special about our tradition. This is a great gift if and when we get there, and I'm sure we'll all get there tomorrow. Yeah, not here when I'm talking. Yes, indeed, confirmed. Anyway, there's so many gifts in our tradition. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, endless gifts. But we have, we're getting close to our...
Just for the sake of the climax, conclusion. So what did Prabhupada mean by there's no love in this material world?
Prabhupada, on the one hand, he was a realist. He said, this is a world where there's so much treachery. There's so much treachery. There's so much darkness and so much illusion and delusion. When I've lectured extensively at yoga major centers around this country and in Europe, and there's one place where I went and said that this world is a very mixed world. There are wonderful and beautiful things in this world, and there are very horrible and ugly things. One person afterwards came up to me and said, "Oh, we don't talk about the ugly things." I said, "And why is that?" "So we just want to see the good things." I said, "That's called repression." And Krishna asks, what good is repression? No, Prabhupada was a realist. He saw that things could be really awful in this world and ugly, horrific. But he also said that things could be beautiful in this world. And Krishna himself emphasizes the beautiful in this world with the Virata Rupa, the famous I am declarations in chapters 7, 9, and 10. Things can be very beautiful in this world, reflecting a spark, you know the rest of the verse, the spark of his splendor. So Prabhupada said it's mixed. So Prabhupada wanted to warn us, hey, there's no love in this world. It's a crazy world. If you're so invested in finding love only here, you're going to be disappointed. And it can get ugly. And frankly, what you call love is often lust. It's selfish. It's egocentric. But as we move to higher and higher levels of consciousness, we do find love. We locate love. We identify love. We find love within our own hearts. And eventually pure love. Prabhupada gave us the ultimate picture of love. The ultimate vision of love. There is nothing more. There's nothing more. The question is, how do we purify ourselves to get there? The process of devotional service takes one from an intrinsically egocentric love, which is selfish and which is kama, and moves more toward an altar-centric love. Altar-centric it's kind of a neologism, which means not centered upon the ego, but centered on the other. To be sensitive to the other. And that altar-centrism then turns into theocentrism, to be centered upon God. That is our process. To be removed from a selfish place, egocentricity, to altar-centricity, to theocentricity. This is our path. Does that make sense? Is that climactic enough?
In the context of a person being selflessly loving in this world, we have our own definitions of selfless love, which is to, follow the orders of the spiritual master, basically.
Yep.
But when we look around at the way, and Prabhupada uses the analogy of the mother loving the child, we see great examples of selfless love. People willing to sacrifice their very
Yes.
existence for
Yes.
the benefit or material welfare of another person, or seeing the soul present.
What about that fellow in the New York subway? He was with his son, holding his hand. A disabled little boy fell into the tracks. Train was coming. He sees the boy, sees the train. He's holding his son's hand. He lets go of his son's hand, jumps into the track, pushes the disabled boy down, and so the train can just roll over them. Not on them, but over them. I don't know, that gets pretty altruistic in my book. But look at this. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the great joy of love is in the great joy experienced by the beloved. Alter-centric, not egocentric. That relationship is without desire for one's own happiness. This is right out of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's my translation, so I take responsibility for it, but this is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Look at the next verse. Pure love is in the great joy experienced by the beloved object. One's great joy depends only on that. This is about being sensitive to the thoughts and feelings of others. That is what we're all about.
So isn't there some of that here?
Yes.
In this world?
Yes.
So then, in the context of that statement, there is no love in the material world, doesn't that statement have to be contextualized, understood in the context of everything else?
Yes. Oh, that's right. Jay. Yes. When there is unconditional pure love, then this is its way and manner. Love of a person is dependent upon the other person's happiness, which is the only objective of one's love. That can only be done if we ourselves are filled up with realization and self-knowledge. Without that, you can't. It's like first there's self-realization and then there's total self-giving. That's our process.
So there is love in this world.
If you can find someone who's fully self-realized and is able to be fully self-giving. But there's also partial. There's partial. Let me see here. What do I? Okay, so here I do egocentrism on the way to alter-centrism. There's my pet peacock. Other. It means other. Centered upon another. Yes. Oh, well, I guess that's it. Well, that's my peacock. But, yeah. Well, I'll hang around a little bit now, and then, I'm going to just be around. I've got, but officially, so I should officially thank everyone for coming. Some people will leave. Anyway, thank you for those of you who came, and those of you who have to leave, that's fine. But I'll still hang around. Okay. Well, they don't have a life. There's all kinds of things happening out there. Yeah. I better do it.
Can you hear? Yes. Oh, okay. Yes. My understanding of Srila Prabhupada's teaching was like, the reason he said there's no love in this world because most of the people are motivated personally. Like even the mother who loves the child unconditionally, who is willing to sacrifice for that child is because it's her child. It's never completely pure. And even sometimes other people sacrifice for others because they want to be looked at as an incredibly altruistic person or something like that. So the way Prabhupada wanted us to love the whole world is, like you said, from egocentrism to theocentrism, and then once you love Krishna, all the parts are included within Krishna. Then once you love him, you can love everyone else easily.
Okay, yeah. And what is the typical example that Prabhupada gives for that? There's a metaphor.
For what?
Loving Krishna first and then loving others. There's a metaphor.
Because in
When
a
you
$100
water-
bill, you have $5, $1, $10.
Okay, no, well okay, but when you water,
Oh, sorry. A tree.
there you
that-
go. Water what part of the tree?
The roots.
That's right. But I'd like to take that a little further.
Okay.
You water the roots. Do you know that if you only water the roots of a tree, you can get wood rot? You have to have sunshine. You have to have warmth that goes to the leaves.
Sure.
Okay? Now, I'm just taking the metaphor a little further because
I think it's if you overwater, you get the roots to rot. But if you do proper gardening,
let me put it this way. If you have no sun at all and you're just watering it, the tree will not survive.
yeah, but that's
So wood rot will come about. So we have to water so first we water the tree, but we want the sun, the warmth of sunlight to hit the many leaves. Now, I'm no botanist here, but I know you got to have sunlight for that tree to thrive. And each of the leaves, which are each of you, that's the linking of arms, just as leaves are linked by branches. So I like to take that metaphor even further to complete the process. Make sense? I mean, these are the things I think about. You know, this is my job. It's not yours. You produce me. You do water trees. Okay. Well, what about the sunlight? Is that on? Okay.
So there's one book distributor. Now I'm going to get down to some more intensity here.
Okay.
There's one book distributor. He was out distributing a book, and one man came up and said, "Oh, it's Krishna consciousness." And the devotee said, "Oh, you know about Krishna consciousness?" He goes, "Yes, I used to be in the movement." He said, "Oh, really?" He said he'd become a Christian priest. And so the devotee asked him, "Well, why'd you leave?" He said, "Well, there's no fellowship." So my question is that for devotees, because I've heard that, like some devotees will say, well, if you go to that temple, they're impersonal there. There's a lot of impersonalism. So immediately for devotees, it's like, oh gosh, there's no relations. There's no intimate exchange. So at this point, then you ask, okay, so what is the format or fellowship? Because see, earlier in the movement, there was a Bhaktivedanta fellowship up in San Francisco. I was there a few years after it started. But then there was all kinds of squabbling that came up between devotees about so many different issues, and it kind of missed the point.
Yeah.
So what is our setup? I mean, we're an international society. Is there some format for fellowship?
No, this is really, really good point. Really good question and good point. What we call association, they call fellowship, right? But do they really mean the same thing in their respective contexts? And this is what you're asking. Do we have the fellowship in association that they have in their fellowship? Well, again, each community, each spiritual or religious community will have its own special qualities because of the particular rasa they have with divinity. So that's going to be something that will be deterministic in terms of how one sees one another. Christians see one another as having the full grace of Jesus. Why? Because as the Hebrew Bible states, the soul is as a filthy rag. Once I was giving a lecture at the University of Mississippi. That's a state within this union here. I didn't know that until I went. But anyway, University of Mississippi, and which is the buckle of the Bible Belt, I would say. Not just the Bible, the buckle. And I was asked to give a lecture, and because it's in the Bible Belt, they asked for a priest to respond to my lecture. My lecture was cleverly called, if I can say so myself, is religion one or is one religion right? That was the name of my lecture. Okay? And he came along and said, Dr. Schweig is right. We are very exclusivistic. We do think we have the truth, and we do think no one else has it. He's absolutely right, because we know that each of us are sinners, and we are, as the Hebrew Bible says, we are as filthy rags. When I heard this, I kind of jumped. Like filthy rags. What a metaphor for the soul. See, what they think is that the soul is inherently flawed. It's eternally flawed, and the only hope for you, come to church, right? It's about the best you can do. The only hope is for Jesus' grace. Now, in one sense, that could be a powerful, statement about grace and their rasa and so on. That, in turn, though, also can affect fellowship. On the other hand, our view should affect our fellowship or association, but I don't see that happening a lot. We, on the other hand, have a vision of the soul as pure and perfect. So just yesterday, I tried going around to all these devotees here and I went up to each one. I said, I see that you're perfect. Anyway, everyone hated it when I did this. Anyway, it just didn't work. I'm not good on social scientific kinds of research. Okay, that's not my field. But anyway, but kidding aside, we are, in our philosophy, we are not flawed souls. We have this perfection to us. And that really, if we were to cultivate fellowship together, linking arms, we need to draw from that level of things. And we can, delight in the variegatedness among all of us in terms of our personal histories, our flaws, our talents and blessings and so on. All of those make up each one of us. But now I'm translating the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali for Yale University Press. And it's interesting. Patanjali says there, and of course yoga philosophy is one of the Shat Darshanas, the 6 classical philosophies of India. He says that even at the stage of perfection, samskaras remain. That is to say, our personalities remain. So take Nisringananda, who's a completely liberated soul, and myself, who's a completely liberated soul. Just use your imagination. I know it's harder for him with him than with me. I know that. But use your imagination. But Nisringananda's personality, fortunately or unfortunately, will remain. But the samskaras are no longer attached to an enslavement to a conditioning. So that's why you can have different personalities in liberated souls, Jivan Muktas. Personalities remain. So there's something actually quite important about those histories. Arjuna and all of his suffering will be part of Arjuna. That will be part of him. And that's okay. It's not like we all attain Krishna bhakti and we're pure devotees and we all sit there like automatons. Hello, Nisringananda. How are you? And then he responds back, I'm very well, Garuda. How are you? No, I'll be me and he'll be, that. And we will interact with great pleasure. As we do now, I'm sure it'll be the same, down the road. So the idea here is that I don't know if we're attaining a level of fellowship that we really could. And that's what I'm trying to bring attention to here. I'm really trying to bring attention to that. This is going to be a book. You see my two little, I have a particular fondness for birds for obvious reasons. Prabhupada named me after a bird. So Now, when you look at this, I mean, this is my point. I mean, I would love to, there are no sannyasis here, okay? Where are the sannyasis? Are you a sannyasi? Okay, you're blessed. Okay, so, I mean, there's no love in this world, but how can you look at a picture like this and say there's absolutely no love there? There just is. There is affection. There's affection in animals. Now, Prabhupada said in the Bhagavad Gita, there is affection in family life, but healthy family life, right? Healthy family life. Going back to Vaikuntha Priya's comment about parents and children, Krishna says in the Rasa-lila, in the 4th chapter of the Rasa-lila, the gopis ask Krishna, what are the kinds of love? What are the kinds of love? What kinds of love are there? And Krishna responds and says there are 3 kinds. There's, and really it's not so much 3 kinds of love, it's more like 3 relationships to love. It's a little subtle. The first relationship to love is one where I'm conditional. So I give Nisringananda $10, and I'm expecting him to do something nice for me, and never comes. I'm no longer his friend. So that's conditional love. Unconditional love is when I give of my whole heart to Nisringananda. I give him $10 or whatever he wants, and I expect nothing in return, which is not going to happen in my relationship with Nisringananda. But I'm just giving this as an example. And then there's a relationship of total detachment. I neither love Nisringananda or not love him. I'm totally detached. And there are several, and the commentators go into the different kinds of persons who are that. The examples for unconditional love, the 2 examples are persons who are like, and that's the key phrase, who are like parents in the purest sense, and who are like compassionate souls for all souls. Those are the people in whom unconditional love resides. Prabhupada, a devotee the other day was saying, I felt very forced in being an Uttama Adhikari in my role as initiating and this and that and the other, and I know I'm not an Uttama Adhikari. I said, who are you to judge? I mean, we can't, Prabhupada didn't give us this knowledge so we can go around judging. Like, well, there's Jai Chaitanya, and then, right, Jai Chaitanya, yeah. He's obviously Uttama, he's an Uttama Adhikari. And then there's, Nisringananda, Prakrita Bhakta, Kanishta Bhakta, and then I see many Madhyamas, and no, that's not what we're supposed to do. See, the fallacy is we think that purity resides within persons. No. I know, because we hear pure devotee, Shuddha Bhakta, we hear that. Actually, purity resides between persons, not within. This is going to sound terrible when I say this, but this is just an example. Prabhupada is not a pure devotee without Krishna. I mean, it's a sort of crazy statement, but I'm just trying to let you know that Prabhupada is not intrinsically pure. He is pure in relation to Krishna. That's where purity resides. Not within Nisringananda, but within my relationship. That's why Vaikuntha Priya can have a relationship with Nisringananda, and it can be very wonderful. And I can have a relationship with Nisringananda, and, it can be really really tough. A rocky road here. That's why you can have different relationships with different people. A devotee once asked me, should I get initiated from such and such? I said, the very fact that you're asking me that means that you shouldn't. You will know in your relationship, if you find the purity, if you find the purity between the two of you, you wouldn't be coming to me and asking me. Okay, here, you better take the, because it's so echoey in here.
I said life occurs in relationship. We're not islands to ourselves. Everything
Right.
comes within that context, for
Right.
sure. But my question to you is, like you said, you cannot judge. Why does it always, everybody's saying that it's so annoying. Why is it always thinking that we're judging? It doesn't have to be a judgment. Prabhupada gave us the standard, this way to see symptom and detect things. So we're not going to go around, like you said, like Charlotte come and say, he's a pure devotee, he's an
I
Uttama,
tried
he's a
that. I have a
Kanishta.
checklist from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. I go around, I'm looking for all, and
Not that we have to do that
Yes,
because
he didn't.
we don't know what's in another person's heart. On the other sense, Prabhupada gave us those things as reference, and it has a meaning, it has a value as well. There's symptoms associated with those, not for us to judge, but to kind of like see what kind of relationship we're going to have with them. And the symptoms are real. They are symptoms of a certain level of consciousness, and they are natural division. So it's not necessarily when we talk about them that we're judging.
Yeah.
But, we could be...
Well, I like what you're saying. There's a difference between judging another person
And having
or
good
just
judgment.
assessing our
Assessing.
dynamic.
Yeah.
So if, for example, this devotee asked me if he should get initiated from this other devotee. You heard the way I responded first, but I then said, by the way, I have a relationship with him, but that may have nothing to do with your relationship with him. Each relationship is special. Each bhakta to bhakta relationship is special. When we have that phrase, pure devotee, shuddha bhakta, a bhakta means one who is shared, one who is sharing. So the purity is in the sharing. It's in the relationship. It's not intrinsic to the individual. Although ontologically, we know that we are all each pure jivas. But in terms of the social existential situation, it's a question of whether our relationships are pure. It's not a question of whether I'm pure, whether I am Uttama Bhakti. I might be Uttama-like in a relationship with the Sringananda, but I might not be that way with you.
Right.
You see? So it's a personal thing. It's a relative thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Prabhuji, as you said that love is there, love is not there in this world and love is everywhere.
Yes.
So can we say that pure love or unconditional love is not there, but otherwise love is there everywhere?
You're saying, can we
put
say...
this way, that when we say pure love, unconditional love, that is difficult to find in this materialistic world. But otherwise, love is there in a conditional form.
Yeah, see, now this word unconditional is something that gets tossed around in the West.
Yeah.
And it is used in the Rasa Panchadhyayi, okay, this idea of unconditional. You know what? This might be helpful. Let me take you to, since I'm not sure how much time we have, Kama versus Prema. I go through this whole thing in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but let me show you a chart that I think could be helpful. And if you let me get through. Okay, so here in the Chaitanya Bhakti tradition, we have Prema as something that's rarely attained, right? I mean, after all, you've got Vaidhi Bhakti, which is developing love. You've got Prema in Raganuga Bhakti, and that's achieving Prema. And then ultimately Rasa in the spiritual world. Okay, so that's where Prema is. Whereas the Bhagavata's use of the word Prema and derivative words from the same root from which Prema comes, you have something that really speaks about something that's ubiquitous or all-pervasive. Let me show you what that looks like. The Bhagavata's, look at this, human conjugal love. So Kardama Muni spoke to Devahuti in a voice choked up with great love. Prema Gadgadaya Vacha. Okay, anyway, I don't want to go through all the examples, you just have to trust me. Okay? So here they are, human conjugal love. Look at all of these, utilize the word prema, human conjugal love, fraternal love even, human love for the earth, the word prema is used. Love between animals, the word prema is used. Animals' love for a human, the word prema is used. In erotic human context. Now, okay. Of course, it can be argued, and even Jiva Goswami himself argues about this in the, I think it's the Priti Sandarbha, that prema in these contexts means something different. Granted. But it's interesting to me that the word prema is the same identical word. So how do you construe this? So this is where I went with it. Oh, so I show in the Rasa Panchadhyayi prema, from the gopis. And right there, your glances of pure love, etc., etc. So I'm just quickly going through this. And then, let's see here. Oh, here are the didactic words I just described to you. These three kinds of love described to the gopis that are spelled out here. And then the ubiquity of prema. So prema in the Bhagavata is found in the animal realm, the human realm, and the divine realm. Okay, so what do you do with that? Okay, so then I go through the Bhakti Sutra and some other texts here, and then, okay, then I analyze in detail the different elements of love, which we don't have time to go through, which this is what scholars do all day, right? This is I'm sorry to say, but that's what my species does. It analyzes things to death, okay? And then, anyway, but here we go. So, scarcity model of prema, okay? So this is the Chaitanya school. So, kama, so this world, when Prabhupada says there's no love in this world, this is what divides this world from the divine world, okay? Kama to kama. Even though it's tamas, rajas and sattva, still, it's laukika kama. Laukika, it's worldly kama, worldly love. Whereas in the spiritual world, there's akama, and alaukika kama. Eventually, the word kama is even used to describe divine love, whereas it's rejected down here. This is right there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, the ubiquity model of love would look like this. Prema is there in everyone, everything, in all life, sentient beings, but it starts off in a minuscule level and expands. It's there, but it expands. Okay? And in Laukika Kama, gets less and less selfish as it goes up through the gunas. Okay? And then in the spiritual world, it translates and gets cultivated at the greatest level of Vaidhi Bhakti, Raganuga, and Ragatmaka Bhakti. So that's where alaukika kama exists, as opposed to laukika kama. Put them all together, the synthesis model would look possibly like this. While this is expanding from everywhere, this is laukika kama. So sometimes Prabhupada is talking about there's no love in this world, but yet there is prema. And so, when there were two kittens playing around at Prabhupada's feet at one point, Prabhupada said, look at this. See, even there is love. Right? So that speaks to the ubiquity of love. Whereas no love in this world speaks to this. My point is that there is naturally a transference of an egocentric orientation to an alter-centric, to a theocentric place. And even in non-bhaktas of this world, good people, there are good people out there. I mean, really, there are good people. And they're of a more sattvika nature. They may be rarer than the rajasika nature, but they're there. And then at this level, alaukika kama progresses as we go from Brahman, Paramatma to Bhagavan. So, anyway, this is a way to try to construe both together.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Another question I had was on a different aspect. You said about the karma being very a different vague version in Western world. In Sanskrit, we pronounce this word karma, not karma. Karma, karma. In
How do you spell?
Sanskrit, it is karma. So is it that karma and karma makes the difference because one sounds more like a verb and another more like a noun? Karma like a noun
tell
and
me.
karma like a verb. Different language, yeah, but the way it is spoken.
Oh, she just dropped
Yeah.
me off the last day. Oh,
Karma.
okay, karma is Hindi. Karma is Sanskrit. That's the only difference. Now, the word has taken on some different meanings as, you know, the history of Indian thought goes on. But you know, within this kind of spectrum, the Laukika realm is the realm of karma. And the Alaukika realm is beyond karma. That's simple. But yeah, so you know, there's no difference between those two words, generally speaking. One is Hindi. In Hindi, they love to drop the A's off of everything. They even say my name, Garud. How are you, Garud? But the fact is I have an A at the end of my name, Garuda. Okay, that's Sanskrit. Yeah.
Garuda, I have a question. How do you interpret the age of the Kali Yuga? And also, how do you interpret Kalki, the final incarnation of Vishnu, that's mentioned among
Kalki.
Kalki,
Mhm.
yes, those two questions.
Well, so these are, you know, you're talking really about cosmic cycles. And I had to actually analyze all of the math of how much is in each particular yuga, in each kalpa, and then Maha Yugas. And anyway, it's really quite a mathematical thing. But yes, the tradition accepts that there is a kind of cycling and sort of deterioration of the creation. Things don't seem to get better, they seem to get worse. And then they need to be cleaned up. Kalki is sort of the cleanup incarnation. Or I don't like to say incarnation, avatar, Kalki avatar. But I'm not sure what are you asking. How does this construe with that, or
No, just your own opinions of
what they are, and so on? My
your opinion of the Kali Yuga and what is
opinion of the Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga. Well, Kali Yuga is great because you know, you got Mahaprabhu coming 500 years ago, and that's a very special embodiment of divinity that descends. So those of us who are fortunate, only 500 years ago, Mahaprabhu was here. That's really not that long ago. Only 500 years ago. So this is special about Kali Yuga. As far as the rest of Kali Yuga, I'm not terribly fond of it, personally. But the Mahaprabhu part of it, I'm delighted with. So if I have to come back here, I'd rather come back, probably in the Satya Yuga or, maybe the Treta, maybe. But I'd be willing to come back in the Kali Yuga if Mahaprabhu is going to still be here, So.
Garuda Prabhu, you've
Yeah.
been sharing with us now for 3 hours straight without a break.
I am very sorry. I
And
apologize to all of you. This must
Oh,
be very hard for you, especially, Nisrigananda.
I want to give you an out because it is lunchtime. And I want to know whether you would like to maybe break for a while. You can be available for one-on-ones, or do you want to go on for another 15, 20 minutes? Up to you.
Well, let's see if there's maybe another 10 minutes, maybe, just to wind things up.
Okay, so
What do you think?
Okay, well, it's about 3 minutes after 1.
So 1:15.
So
I won't miss lunch,
Let's
really?
call it a day at 1:15, okay? And anyone can offer to give Garuda $10 so he could go to the restaurant, get some lunch. Because he brought that $10 up
Do we
at
have a
least 4 or
basket?
5 times in the last 3 hours.
Exactly.
So
I'm
obviously
just
he's
thinking of
fixated on it. But, so anyway, donations are acceptable and tax
Do you have a hat, anyone?
tax
Could they pass
deductible.
around?
Garuda, that principle, from the prema to the other one, could, because intrinsically we are love. So maybe the way I understand it, the way you explain is that it's a question of degree instead of seeing from black to white or
Shades,
white to black,
shades.
shades, degrees. Like you say, it's here, it's there. Maybe not fully complete, but some presence of love is there. Because intrinsically, like you say, ontologically, we have that in our heart. That's what
Yes.
the soul is about love.
Yes.
And it's expressed to various different degrees as we progress and our consciousness evolves and as we include Krishna in our life as well.
Yes.
That's what
indeed.
you're saying.
Yes, indeed. Some people, they experience love. I can't stand humans. I can't. I just don't like humans.
They love
But
animals.
I've got this German Shepherd. Oh my
Right.
God, I love this German Shepherd. They'll say something like that.
Yeah.
They just feel, and you know what? It's genuine. That they feel something there, and interspecies love. No problem with that. That's fine. There's affection between the dog and the human.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the perfection of love? I don't think so. Okay? And Prabhupada used to say, either dog or God, right? I love that. I love Prabhupada's way of saying things like that. But the idea here is that, when we try to offer the gift of bhakti to others, because, we talk a lot in this movement, spread the movement, make devotees. These are phrases that are used. Phrases. Make devotees. I've never seen anyone ever make a devotee. I've never seen it, but I'm open.
Yeah.
But, spread the movement. I have this vision of peanut butter or something, spread the movement. The point is to practice bhakti. To practice bhakti. When we practice bhakti, naturally it flows into others' hearts. We don't have to preach. Now, preach is a Christian term, and of course Prabhupada used it because that's how we would understand it in the West. But actually, we're about teaching and sharing. Okay? We're about teaching and sharing. This is what we're about. What are you going to do to me? Okay. Can you hear me?
Oh, much better.
That's too loud. See? Is it? Okay. I was really scared when he came up to me like that. It was a test. It really was. Yeah.
Give us 5 minutes of your wonderful Hare Krishna kirtan, please.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Before you end, Garuda, this presentation, are you teaching that? Are you presenting that to the devotees in full? Because I know you touched upon it here today, which is wonderful. Are you teaching that and training devotees in this understanding? Because I think it's an amazing contribution. I know it's a paper you delivered in Chennai. How about you teaching this whole thing through like a longer period of time and going in depth or covering the entire subject?
Well, this is to Swavas Prabhu's credit. He's the one who dragged me across the country and said, talk about this. He said he feels the devotees really could use this. So he obviously cares about I don't want to hear from you, Bhargava. Okay, fine, okay.
I get you in trouble, I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Go on. I love it.
But this is very beautiful. It's really worked out, and it works out very easily for the sadhu, who's under no political pressure at all. He's the free soul. And you can even do this in family life if you make the right choices.
Right.
In who you surround yourself with in family life. But when you're society building, like we see all the problems that come from this government trying to do nation building.
Yes.
When you're society building, it ain't easy, is it?
Yeah.
To do these things.
No, it's true.
And the thing about not criticizing, Prabhupada told, I think it was Jayatirtha, he said, if someone is doing wrong and you don't say anything, he said, you share in the karma.
Yeah.
So there's a whole different dynamic of dealing in a society or building a society. And the ultimate sadhu thing that I'd heard from one of Prabhupada's godbrothers once. He said, if you're interested in truth, you have to be prepared to stand alone sometimes. So there's a lot of challenges on that level. And I can't ask you for an easy solution because there really isn't an easy solution.
Yeah, no, but I appreciate your points, Bhargavaji. In this world, in the outer world, I actually began talking, I think at the start of this talk, that in the outer world, there are always struggles. There are always going to be struggles. But as devotees, we should take advantage of struggle the way Arjuna did. You know, Arjuna could have gone the way of Prozac, or the equivalent thereof, back in the day. I'm sure there were herbs. Or he could go the way of yoga, of union with Krishna. So he chose the latter. And when we choose Krishna, we're choosing all of us. A temple is only as good as it is a community. Right? Prabhupada is famous for saying, saying that Krishna said that, one who loves me, one who worships me, doesn't worship me. One who worships my devotee. This is how important Sangha is. It's essential that we learn how to worship at the altar of each other's hearts. Even if we have differing opinions on editing, the Prabhupada's books, for example, which is an outer world level task that, has been problematic. Sometimes I see devotees on the internet get so wrapped up with modern day politics. It's all right to acknowledge what's going on there. But, just like Arjuna, there was no right or wrong decision that he had to make. It was impossible to think of it as right or wrong. He had to go inside himself to decide how to come out to the outer world to act, how to act at that level. No one could tell him what to do, really. Krishna was sort of urging him to, but he stepped back and said, Arjuna, you got to figure this out. And I'll give you my teachings so you can figure it out. But it will never be figured out at an external world level. For President this or against President that or whatever. These arguments back and forth will never be, there's no perfection there. In fact, the perfection there is how imperfect it is. That's the perfection in this world. And that imperfection, the perfection of that imperfection is meant to move us either toward yoga or to Prozac. I prefer yoga myself. Bhakti yoga. Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. We have to wish each other well, not to wish ill. I'm trying. Really. Yeah. That's very sweet. That's very nice. That's very nice. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I do in the Sringananda. Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's great. That's great.
We have one last question, and then we're going to have a
Ah, okay. Yes.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I only caught the last half or maybe last quarter, but it was very, very inspiring.
Great, thank you.
Especially touching on spiritual community, which is really, really close to my heart. Two things that keep coming up for me constantly, even when we were talking about prema and this path of love, as Vaikuntha kind of drew it to, is that Prabhupada said, and I heard this most recently from Vyashki Das, that be conscious first and then be Krishna conscious. And I think that's really relevant to this. But in order to step out of the judgment aspect that we talked about a lot, and be love, vessels of love, and to have that interrelationship and exchange of love with every being that we come in contact with, kind of reminds me of another little thing that Jamuni used to say, which is you got to have it to give it.
Yep.
So, and if you really, really, I mean, it's just a silly little expression,
Mhm.
but if you really dive deeply into that, it just lifts you right out of, well, I feel like it almost lifts you out of all those bottom three
Yeah, right.
immediately,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
you know,
Yeah.
because you can't really, you can only offer someone love at that
Yes.
stage.
Yes.
Anyway, I don't know where that is on the spectrum, but
No,
it
no,
just
that's very
kept
good.
coming
It's
up
very
for
good.
me.
Yeah, you know, we say conscious. We should be conscious, and then Krishna conscious. You know, the word conscious and Krishna conscious, the phrase Krishna conscious, I like to bring in the idea of being aware and sensitive to one another. That's what it means to be conscious. To be aware and sensitive, to find out where a person's coming from before you give the gift of Krishna bhakti. Don't, I see devotees, perhaps newer devotees, less seasoned devotees, try to just, make the person a devotee, quote unquote. You don't even know where they're coming from. Even on Facebook, I mentioned I'm giving a lecture at Oxford. Devotees are coming on there and say, well, I hope you're talking about Krishna. I've just devoted 40 years of my life, slaving at universities, getting more degrees than I should have, to do just that, but they don't find out. A relationship, to start a dialogue. At the heart of being conscious and aware is to engage in a balanced dialogue. Find out. A very famous scholar endorsed my Bhagavad Gita. His name is Houston Smith. He died recently. He was world famous. He was on really at the very top of the top. And he said some extraordinary things about my work. I had occasion to meet him at a HarperCollins gathering at one of these professional meetings. And I sit down with him, and the first thing he asks me, so, Graham, what is your story? I was just amazed. I mean, that's exactly the right question. What is your story? What are you about? Where are you coming from? I would like to know you. I would like to be closer to you. That's love. It's dialogue. That's conscious. Yeah. There we go. That's the dance of divine love. That's right. You have to use my title, for heaven's sake. Yeah. If I can.
Well, make us dance.
Oh. So just a little kirtan. Thank all of you. Thank you. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya, Adama Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya, Govinda Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya, faster. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya, Mana Govinda Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya, Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Hey Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Jaya. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.